Okay, at Flyleaf Books, and I'd like to thank you all for supporting your local independent bookstore. To make our events more accessible, we are recording tonight's event, and it's gonna go up in our YouTube channel within the next few weeks. And lastly, I asked the authors to conclude by 7 p.m. so that we can be mindful of our colleagues who are closing up the store. Now, Serena Kaylor likes to write about that first flush of summer love, whispered conversations at midnight, and endings happy enough to make your toes curl. She grew up running wild as a changeling through North Carolina swamps, and as an adult has wandered from libraries into medicine. When she's not writing, she can be found experimenting in her kitchen, wallpapering any blank surface, and hugging every dog that will let her. Long story short, is her debut novel. She's joined by Grunder Ruiz, who is a writer, educator, and karaoke enthusiast.
Yay!
She's from Florida, but now lives in Raleigh, North Carolina with her husband and 2 children. She holds an MFA in creative writing from NC State, where she now teaches first-year writing. She is the author of 2 novels, Love Lists and Fancy Ships, and Log and Last Resorts. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thank you for being here to celebrate Serena and this beautiful book. Like, can you tell me just really quickly what you thought when you saw this cover for the first time?
So they sent me a few options. There was that one, there was a purple option and a blue option, and I'm like, come on, it's gonna be pink. But it was basically the same graphic, just different color variations. But I was like, this feels right. This feels right.
I think it does feel right, and it's very beautiful. So to kick us off, I was hoping, I've read it, so I know what it's about, but could you tell everyone here a little bit more about what they can expect to find when they read Long Story Short?
Sure. So it's about this girl, Beatrice Quinn. She's 16. She lives in California with her parents. She's very socially awkward, introverted, kind of a math genius, homeschooled. And she applies to Oxford and gets in kind of secretly, and her parents don't want her to go because she doesn't have a lot of experience or with doing things on her own or really handling change well. So they agree to consider it if she goes to Shakespeare summer camp for a few weeks and checks off this list of what they think are normal teenage experiences that she's missed up to this point. And she meets a lot of chaotic theater kids and goes through the list and kind of learns a number of things about herself along the way.
I think that's a really good summary. And I just thought this book was so tightly put together. The stakes were so high. I was just like holding my breath. Like, how did you come up with this idea for the kind of like premise between Bea and her parents with the Oxford and the theater summer camp? Was that the first thing you thought of when you came up with this book?
It was. The list wasn't always in there. That was kind of used or added later in the process to help with pacing. But
lists are always good. I do recommend them. Not that I have any experience with it.
But the theater camp was always there, and her parents making her go was always there. So it's been a work in progress. Like writing your first novel, especially if you don't really know a lot about craft when you start, is a little bit of a process. And so this has been across a number of years while I kind of figured out what I was doing. But as I read more books and kind of taught myself a little bit, was more in the community and learned a lot more about stakes and pacing, it kind of evolved into what it is now. And I just remembered you teach us, and I'm very nervous.
No. I teach academic writing at work, so you don't have to be. Well, can you talk a little bit about how did you learn those things? Because there's, even when you get an MFA, like I did, you don't go into a classroom and they're like, here's how to do stakes. It's like, let's all sit in a circle and read each other's stuff and make each other cry. I'm just kidding. Not most of the time you don't cry. So how did you approach learning how to write a novel?
Yeah, so I had the idea and I started writing it, and very, very early on I sent it out to a number of people I knew that read a whole lot. And I mean, it's a lot different to read something critically from an author's perspective and a reader's perspective, and I got a lot of like all over the place feedback, and so I started reading a lot of craft books. Save the Cat is one of my favorite for pacing and like making sure you're hitting the correct beats and that things aren't just like really saggy in the middle, and that you are keeping the story propelled in a certain way. Did you tell me about Save the Cat? Okay. And meeting people in the community that tell you about the books that you need to read to help your writing. So I entered this sort of mentorship program on Twitter called Author Mentor Match, and I submitted my manuscript and I got picked by a wonderful author named Sophie Gonzalez, and she's written a number of books. I think she's writing her 6th now. She's got 4 out. And she kind of helped me along the way with this as well. We talked a lot about craft. She gave me some very good insight into what's working and what's not working, because when you're writing in a vacuum or like sending it to people who love you, they're like, this is amazing, this is the best book I've ever read, and then it's not, and that's fair. But
I mean, my mom was a beta reader and she did not do that. She was like, Sarah, and I was like, thanks.
I'd be like, this is very valuable feedback, thank you. No, my mom would be like, this is the best book on the planet. So lovely, not helpful. So that's kind of how I stumbled across the years into a book that is put together structurally.
Did you ever want to give up?
I don't know if I ever was like, I'm gonna give up, because I did it across so many years. Like I took a break in the middle and went to grad school and then started back up when I got out. So it's not like there was anything hanging over my head, like you have to do this or not. But I feel like now that I'm kind of in it, I'm gonna have to be a little bit faster than 5 years per book. I mean, maybe a little bit, but
but you can do it now because you know how.
Yes.
It's still going to be hard, but I think the difference with after that first book comes out is you can do it.
Right.
So, and you kind of have to. So right. You can't flail around for 5 years, and I think you will be fine.
Yes. Learning, I think, getting over that first hurdle was kind of the hardest part, but now I do technically know how to do it, so I can replicate it theoretically.
You will. Yes. So once you wrote the book, kind of what was the journey to publication? Like, did you get your agent really quickly and then just it happened really quick, or were you like the rest of the sad people like me who were on submission for a long time and maybe have a book that never sold? But I don't think so. If this is your first book that you wrote,
it's my first.
That's really impressive. I think you get a round of applause for that. Thank you.
Thanks. So after I got into Author Mentor Match in like 2018, and then I got some of the notes back from Sophie early 2019, and I just started editing it, and I was very slow, and we did a few rounds over the course of that year, and I probably had it ready by like late summer, but I just sat on it and I was like, it's not ready. Something has to be done to it to fix it more. And then finally she got tired of me whining about it and was like, you need to just query and be done with it. And so early in January, I think it was like the first week in January, I sent it out. And then I got some requests for referrals, and then I think it was a week and a half in, I got my first call, and then a day or so later I had my second, and then I had my agent by the end of the month, Jim McCarthy.
If y'all are not writers, you need to know that that is not at all normal. Like, that is not a normal thing. Some people look for agents for years. So for Serena, like within a week and a half. Okay, that's it. We're not friends anymore. So how was the process of working with your agent and then going on submission? Were you as lucky on submission? Are we not going to be friends like forever?
So my agent is lovely. I am a little obsessed with him. He's a theater kid himself, so he was immediately really drawn to the story and had a lot of great feedback for me. So he got me my notes, I think, by early March, and then I edited again. That's one of the things people don't tell you about writing a book is you're going to read it 5,000 times, and once it's published, you will never read it again. I don't
Speak for yourself. I love my books. Somebody has to.
I could literally act out that entire book in front of everyone right now.
Actually, that's what we're going to do.
I probably will after I get further away from this, but I've read it so many times and I've rewritten it so many times. So I did, I think, probably 2 passes with him because there were some things that he wanted to expand on and clean up for submission. And then we went on submission, I think it was end of June, and then I had my deal by September.
That is, so from start to finish is like what? Less than a year?
Yes.
That's like a baby, a book baby. That is incredible. I'm so glad that was your journey. So your agent is a theater kid. I'm assuming, I actually don't know the answer to this, but I'm assuming that you were a theater kid. All right, can you talk about, did you always know you wanted to write about kind of that subculture of, I was not a theater kid. Well, in college.
You have big theater kid energy.
I definitely do.
Yeah.
But in college, I always got cast as like ninja puppeteer or like random guy with a violin. So yeah, I mean, my talents were severely underutilized.
Wasted opportunities.
So did you always want to write about theater?
I don't know if I was always like, it's gonna be theater. I do love theater, and it was very important to me in my formative years. But I think I really wanted to write this very awkward, sheltered girl, and I wanted to put her out of her comfort zone to help her find herself. And the most chaotic way I could think of to do that was theater. So I was like, theater camp it is.
And not just theater, but like theater camp in the summer.
Yeah.
And I loved as soon as we'd get to the camp, like everything is like, these are, I know a lot of theater kids.
Yeah.
And I, as you said, do have big theater kid energy. And this book is theater kid energy, like chaos, which is my favorite kind of energy. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about creating Bee as a character? Where did you come up with her?
She is not me, but she does have similar vibes to me in some ways, especially when I was younger. So I kind of over-exaggerated my experiences younger, trying to come out of my shell a little bit. I was pretty introverted at a few years there. Read a lot of books, liked to be in my room, didn't really want to go outside and do anything. And my parents did get me into theater. We went to this community college, and my mom was like, guess what? Family theater time. We're all applying to this play, and we're all going to do it together.
And your family.
And me and my sister were like, what? But it was A Christmas Carol. I became the Ghost of Christmas Past. Mom was Mrs. Cratchit. My dad was Jacob Marley, although my mom forgets that and calls him Bob Marley all the time. It's not the same character. And then my sister was in the chorus because she was too cool for any of that. And she was like, I don't want to be here. But we were there, and we did it as a family, and then we kept doing it.
That is great. I hope that I get adopted by your family. I would love to do family theater time. My family, I would be scared for them to do that. Every day is family theater. No, just right. So you have so many side characters that felt really fully realized and developed. I don't even know which one is my favorite, to be honest. Though, how can you not love Mia?
I know.
Can you talk about creating the side characters? And not that we have favorite children, but which
It's
one
Nolan.
is yours? It's Nolan. I mean, you can't not love him.
Right.
You can't not love him.
No.
But okay, so how did you come up with these characters?
So Nolan used to be Nolan and another girl who were like besties, and then I cut her because I just felt like she was
Dead weight.
yeah, she was dead weight. It wasn't pulling her plot arc or her arcs, and was just kind of parroting everything other people said. So I was like, nope, no, it's gonna be two friends. And Mia was always right there. She's very similar to how she was in the beginning, but she's definitely more fully realized now. But I really wanted her to have a close female friendship and learn how important that is and how powerful that is. So she was always there from the beginning, and so was Nolan, who is B is kind of like how I was when I was a kid, but Nolan is me now. So
No wonder I love him so much.
so he was always super fun to write. I'm like, what's a ridiculous thing that he could say here? And then I would just write it.
That is great. Now, Nolan has a twin
Mm-hmm.
named Shelby,
Mm-hmm.
who is not everyone's favorite. How did you come up with that dynamic? I really got some High School Musical vibes there.
Oh, did you?
I was just like, oh, okay. But I was like, that's probably not where she got that. I just watched too much High School Musical. So.
I've honestly never seen it, and I feel like I know.
Okay, really,
I know.
I'm
I have to.
You have to come to my next Zeph-Ronathon.
Okay. My friend Jenna made me watch Camp Rock a year or so ago because she's like, "This is Camp Rock,
I
this
need to
book,"
watch
and I was like, "Okay."
Wow, that was a flashback
Yeah.
that I did not need. I'm just kidding.
Um.
So Shelby, where'd she come from?
Yeah, she was not always related to Nolan. She used to be just like a mean girl, and they all hated her. And I was like, what if we humanized her a tiny bit and didn't just make her a generic mean girl? And so I added a little bit of, I guess, Nolan helped her a little bit. Nolan helped her be more tolerable. So
I think
And
you did
it
a great job.
thank you.
You did talk about friendship, and I wanted to ask because I feel like the romantic aspects and the friendship aspects feel both equally kind of present throughout the book. Was that always the case? Was that purposeful, and why? Not that this is a quiz or anything.
All of the above. No, I'm married. Hey, baby. And love him a lot. Very powerful relationship. But I feel like a lot of my other friendships, like female friendships, like specifically, they're also like some of the loves of my lives.
Never say
Yes,
never,
exactly. This is my 8th go round. No.
One more.
So I really wanted her to like have that same experience. Like, there's so many women in this audience today that I just love so much. So
I'm crying.
I know you're becoming one of them, Sarah. So I just wanted B to have that experience too, because that's like such an important part of growing up. My best friend growing up, there was like when people were like, "Where's Serena?" They were always like, "Where's Serena and Becky?" Because we were a unit. She went on vacation with me. I went on vacation with her family. We were together 24/7, which is probably not healthy, but but just saying that, like, especially when you're younger, these friendships are super powerful, and I wanted to give her a taste of that.
I love how immediate the friendship between B and Mia and Nolan is. Was it always that way? Did you do that on purpose?
It was always that way, and it is purposeful because I feel like theater kids are just some of the most accepting and welcoming people in the world. They're like, hey, you're dressed completely in period costume, but that's cool. I'm going to completely accept this, and we're friends now. And like, they're just very welcoming. And so I wanted to make sure that I included, touching the microphone, I wanted to make sure that I included that aspect of the camp. So, and she needed that because she was already so out of her depth. I think she really needed somebody to be kind to her and be like, hey, you've got a list from your parents. That's cool. We'll do it as a group.
That is really great. I'm not sure if your mic is on all the way. The one in your hand. Maybe. I'm not sure.
Am I squeezing
Oh,
this too tight?
there you
we go.
are. Okay.
I was like,
I
this whole thing without this.
Listen, you project though,
Okay.
because you were a theater kid. So
Thank you.
you had the
Oh,
skills
yeah,
you
I
needed.
totally did this without this microphone. I'm sorry, you guys.
We can all hear you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? It's all okay. If that is the biggest problem that happens, we're good. So I'm not trying to jinx anything, okay? Never. I wanted to ask you. Oh, something else I really love about the friendships is that they don't like sugarcoat anything with B. They're just like, girl, you need to get a different outfit now. I love you. And you know, is that a dynamic that you like in your friendships? Like, why did you choose that sort of dynamic? Did it suit B? Is that what she needed?
I think that's what she needed because she's not the sort of person I think that could really handle like trying to read between the lines with people, or if someone's like passive aggressive, trying to understand what exactly they're trying to tell her. And I think like seeing the list and meeting her early on, her friends realized that if they wanted her to know something, they just had to tell her. And I like that in my friendships too, so.
It seems like Mia and Nolan just really get her from the beginning, and I really appreciated that because it's kind of unexpected when you have a character who is the socially awkward introvert. The expectation is, oh no, like, oh, she meets the cool girl, that's not gonna be good. But I love that Mia is just so nice and like immediately accepting and just understands B from the beginning, and I really appreciated that kind of reversal there. Okay, let's talk about the writing process a little bit because it's my favorite topic. I always want to glean tips from everybody else, so this is a little bit selfish. Can you talk about your writing process? I mean, has it changed now that you are published?
Mm-hmm.
And if so, in what ways?
It's definitely. Is this on? Hello. It's got a red dot.
Oh,
Okay, that's fine.
we'll just trade these.
Okay.
It's all good.
It wasn't my fault. So my process is a lot different than it used to be, and it's kind of mostly been because I've finally started learning what works for me. I'm very severely ADD, and so sitting down in a chair and having to just think about things and write them is like super hard for me. So it's been a process of learning what works, what times a day work best. If I wait too long and get up and start talking to people or thinking about things or thinking about a TV show I saw 10 years ago, like it's off the rails. I'm like Googling stuff, and that leads to like other pathways and conversations with people, and I'm completely off track. So I gotta wake up in the morning, not talk to anybody, not just go on social media or anything like that, and just sit down and write out kind of what I'm thinking of, and then just try and power through, which is working for me. I know some people do okay at night, and I do okay at like night if there's nobody up and talking to me.
I would not sleep. If I write after 5 o'clock, forget sleeping. It's never happened.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part of the writing process for a book?
I think probably the very beginning, where you're like, what did I write about? My friend Sophie came up with this idea when I was trying to think of my second book, and I was like, oh, I got kind of some ideas, and I'm not sure exactly what to do. She's like, get a piece of paper and then list 100 things that you love in a book, and by the time you get to 50, you're gonna have an idea. And I was like, okay, I don't believe you, but let's go. And I think by the time I hit 30, like just my favorite tropes, like favorite type of situations, characters, like anything you could think of, like a weird habit someone has, just anything in the world you can think of. I think by the time I was at like 28, 30, I was like, oh.
I need to give Sophie a call,
Right?
Because I need to come up with an idea
so
for
smart.
book 4. Maybe she can help me.
Write a list, Sarah.
I mean, I love lists and
Fancy ships.
Which is a very hard title to say to people. How did you come up with the title for Long Story Short?
Wow.
Oh, I feel like we're gonna have a long story.
I think this is its third title. Wait, was the third title? Third or fourth.
Titles are the worst.
Titles are the worst. My last one before this was Wherefore Art Thou Beatrice Quinn, and the marketing department at Wednesday was like, girl, no. They're like, too long, too weird.
Marketing departments love to like just
Right? They were like, no. So I was like, okay, that's fine. They're like, send us another idea. And I knew that I couldn't release the news of my book deal until we finalized a title. So I sent them 32 ideas because I wanted to wrap this up. I was like, let's go. And I was listening to a lot of Taylor Swift at the time. And I was like, this is an idiom. She can't sue me. And so I wrote it into the list. And they were like, this is it. Everyone loves it. I'm like, is everyone on this decision-making committee a millennial? And they were like, yes. And I was like, okay.
It's a
That's
great
fine
title.
too.
I really love it. And like they got it on the cover.
They
so
got it on the
nice.
cover so nice.
They really did.
Right?
It's amazing.
And they gave me a theme song. I was like,
I mean,
this is fine.
any way you can tie Taylor Swift into a book is an excellent marketing
Right?
technique.
Exactly.
Have you submitted your book at all to Taylor Swift as Books Instagram account? What? There's an Instagram account that is just, they pair pictures of Taylor Swift with books.
Oh my God.
So I
Sarah.
think you need to do that.
That's my plans tonight.
Okay.
I did at Taylor Swift on Twitter a few times. Like, hey
Happens
girl,
to be all
look at this book I wrote. She did not answer me, but that's okay.
You know what?
She might see it one day.
She loves you in spirit.
There you go.
I believe
She's
that.
helped me, whether she knows it or not.
All right, so we talked about your favorite part when your answer is wrong. The battery died in one of the mics. Your answer is wrong because the beginning is the worst, but I will forgive you for that. But what is your least favorite part of the writing process?
Ooh, probably copy edits.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, Serena, do you know how commas work? And I'm like, no, I don't. So every time they're like, no. And I'm like, accept, I'm sorry. And then, I mean, my copy editor, she's very thorough. She was amazing, but she was also like, she didn't understand the theater kid vibe. Because Beatrice wears this like velvet dress at the end for this party, and they're like velvet in the summer, and I'm like, listen, it's an aesthetic, and she's into it, and this is not abnormal.
That is a hilarious copy editor. They are so detailed. Y'all.
They're so detailed.
They were like, did you mean this from like 2013? Because it didn't exist in 2012. And I'm like, listen, I can't do math. No, that's not a thing.
Another thing she said, they watch, remember that Leonardo DiCaprio, Romeo and Juliet? Yes, from way back in the day. And I was like, Beatrice doesn't watch a lot of contemporary movies. And they were like, contemporary? This was 20 years ago. And I was like, ow. Right?
Copy editors are the worst. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was like, harsh, but okay, you're right.
What, if you want to tell us, what was the most, the thing you were like, how did this get through that they commented on copy edits? Like, if there was something you missed or...
Oh, there was a lot of, like misspelled words, and I mean, I think there was one part where I like literally just wrote the same sentence twice in a row. And I was like, how many people have read it at this point? How is this still in here? But yes.
Hopefully no errors made it through to the end.
Yes.
Unlike in my second book, that's not even out yet, but we'll not talk about that right now.
You know what? It fought this hard to get there.
It did. It deserves
it.
Matt, the character who is not a character and only exists in chapter 13, he earned his place there. Do I have feelings about it? No! But, so that's why you shouldn't read your book when it comes out. Do you have an audiobook?
I do have.
Have you listened to it?
I haven't because it was supposed to come out yesterday, but there have been delays on that as well. But they told me in an email it'll be ASAP, whatever that means. So hopefully it's out right the second, and I just don't know it.
I cannot wait to listen to it. Did you get a say in who the narrator was?
I did. They sent me her reading the first chapter, and I love her. She's wonderful.
Who was your narrator?
She did the Darkening Gray. Am I saying that right? Her name is also Sarah.
Sarahs are excellent.
Yeah, Sarahs are awesome.
Did you do any big changes in revision? Like, what was the biggest change that you made?
I don't think that there was anything huge in terms of like the hardcore like part of the plot. But a lot of my characters, like Mia and Nolan, they had like the same vibes, but they didn't really have a whole lot of backstory and like their own little personal arcs. And I definitely added that. And then I expanded a lot on the setting because I just want to skip straight to the dialogue. So I'm like, where are they in a dark room? Who knows? Are there trees around? Couldn't tell you. So tried to include at least more of that.
I think you did a great job because I felt like the camp was so vivid. It felt like a real place to me. I felt very grounded when I read it. So you did pull it off, even though you are right. Dialogue is the fun part to write.
Yeah.
And description, it's like, why do they have to be places?
What is anyone wearing? I don't know.
Like, who cares?
Clothes, whatever.
Apparently people do care about those things. I have never been to theater camp.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us, have you been to theater camp?
No.
How did you come up with the theater camp then?
So basically the Parent Trap, I kind of used that camp. And I was like, oh.
I did picture
like
that in my mind.
Right? No, Mommy didn't let me go to camp when I was growing up because she thought I would be kidnapped. So I was never allowed to go anywhere. Even when I was an adult and we were traveling in Brussels, we got sort of separated at the train station, and she literally went to a police officer and told them I'd been kidnapped. I was just waiting upstairs for her.
Book 3.
Right. So I didn't get to go away to camp, but I really wanted to isolate her somewhere where she couldn't quit. So I was like, summer camp. We're doing it.
It's a great choice. And I think summer camp is it's a believable place for all of this to happen, especially like we're friends right away. And I loved what I think it was Nolan who said, we're camp friends?
Yeah.
Like my camp
This is
friend.
my camp best friend.
And so you've never been to camp, but yet you know all of this camp culture. I don't know. Thank you, Parent Trap.
Right?
Okay, I have a few more questions, and then we're going to do an audience Q&A, so start thinking, audience. We want to be impressed by you. It's going to be your turn. What message do you hope your readers take away from this book?
I think like probably the message I want to convey the most is I really like how Beatrice had the option and the choice to really be exposed to a lot of different things, and it's not like she went to camp and became a completely different person who was like, oh, this old version of me sucks. Like, no, she's still very much herself, but she got to enough exposure to really see kind of what else she could be on top of who she already is, and really got to choose maybe a few other things to add to her personality that she's crafted all these years. So if you're comfortable and it's safe, like try new things and really see what's out there.
I think that message comes across really well.
Mm-hmm.
So what can you tell us about what the pitches that you're working on? If you can tell us anything.
Not a whole lot, but definitely still rom-coms. They're still very smart, like STEMmy, sarcastic protagonists in chaotic situations.
Okay, that sounds like my crack. I will read all of them. All the chaos, please. And of course, we can't turn it over to the audience before I ask you about the Shakespeare element of the book. So, like, there's a lot of love for Shakespeare in here.
There is.
Why did you choose Shakespeare, and why Romeo and Juliet? Was there a purpose for that you had in mind?
So I love Shakespeare. I think got really into him in high school with me and my best friend Becky. We would like memorize sonnets and say them to each other a lot, and it was just like chaotic like teenage girl stuff. And so I've always loved Shakespeare. I honestly hate Romeo and Juliet. It's like one of my least favorite plays that he writes. I think that they're all stupid, except for Mercutio, who I love beyond belief, and the Prince, who is big mom energy, and he just comes in like every time, like, what are you guys doing? Stop. So I love I love that part. But I wanted a play that didn't have a whole lot of main characters because I was like, I cannot write 50 side characters who all have like different parts. So I picked it for that. And Beatrice was never under any circumstance going to be Juliet, but I loved the idea of her being like the most boisterous. Oh, I'm not even going to, spoilers, never mind. I didn't say anything. But I loved the idea of all these other like fun characters in there that weren't necessarily like Romeo and Juliet, so
I loved it. So, that's my questions that I have for you. If I think of more, I will interrogate you later. But it's time for everyone else to interrogate you now. So, audience, do you have any questions? Don't be shy.
Can I ask about your process? You talked a little bit about with your ADD, realizing that mornings work best, but I'd love to know more about are you an outliner? Do you just chaotically throw things on the page? Maybe I do sometimes.
So I feel like the reason this book took so many years is because I did not plot it beforehand. I was just sit down and be like, where's she going today? And then see how that went. And that's why I think I had to rewrite it so many times because I had no idea where I was going when I started it. And then once I finished it, I looked back and I was like, it was a very meandering journey with no pacing whatsoever. So now I plot. For these past 2 books that I did, or that I'm writing, I wrote like thousands of words of a synopsis for each of them, and then I broke it into chapters. So there's like very little wiggle room for me in terms of being like, oh, I don't even know what's going on today, I'm gonna skip it. I'm like, what this chapter is about, sit down and write it. But I hit like the big beats, but I don't fill in all the little details, so I still give myself a little like creativity room to change things up. And I already have changed a lot of things with at least one of them, but it at least gave me some framework, which I realized my brain really needed. So I've definitely changed up since I started.
What are some other recent or upcoming young adult novels that you're excited about or recommend?
Sure. So Sophie Gonzalez also is coming out with a Taylor Swift title book.
It's the time of Taylor.
I know, right? Never Ever Getting Back Together, and that comes out in November, I believe. December.
Oh,
Yes, coming.
But it's basically this girl dates this guy who cheats on her with another girl, and then he gets into this sort of like bachelor type contest, and she applies to get on there, and so does the other girl, and they're like bunk mates, and they're fighting all the time because they each think each other like tried to steal away this guy that none of them want anymore. They're just there to ruin his life.
As one does.
And then they fall in love, and it's a rom-com for sure.
I was about to say, please tell me that they fall in love.
They do.
Yes.
So cute. That's probably one I'm very, very excited about. I just picked up yesterday Boys I Know by Anna Gracia. That I haven't read yet, but I love Anna, and I love the message of that book. It's about this girl, June Chow, I think is her last name, and she is in this very sort of traditional, sort of conservative household, and she's just kind of out there trying to sort of figure out sort of how she wants to approach relationships, and it's got a lot of like great sex positivity, and I think it also has like a pretty important message, so I'm excited to read that one too.
Any more questions? Are you gonna do your idea?
Yes.
If there's no more questions, Serena came up with a very fun idea that she will tell you about.
Yes. So in the book, there's this Shakespearean contest, and I was going to have us do our own Shakespearean contest where see if you guys can guess the play that some of these lines are from, and I'll do like 5 and see if there's like a standout winner. And then you guys get a gift bag full of fun swag. My book and Sarah's book, and
I hear it's good.
some fun things. So, okay. What about, we'll start easy.
Raise your hand and I'll see who raised their hand first.
Yeah. All right.
Watch
What's
it.
in a name that which we call a rose by any other word would smell as sweet?
Over here.
Get it, girl. Come on.
Juliet.
Yes. Okay. 1
Slam
point for
dunk.
you. All right. What about all the world's a stage and all the men and women merely players?
Y'all need to start reading more Shakespeare. Not that I know the answer, but come on.
Okay.
Hamlet?
No, but you're close. Okay.
Is it Midsummer's Night Dream?
No.
Is it Othello?
No.
That's the only other one I went to school in Porto.
No.
Some of a nugget. As you like it?
Yes. We'll give it to you.
Only one more and you are the winner. You all are failing this quiz.
You guys are so good. These are hard. All right. What about the fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What about this above all to thine own self be true?
That's Hamlet.
Yes, it is. What about
Last minute. Actually, I don't know. This is the last one.
oh, that one's hard. All right. What about this one? To be or not to be? That was the question. Okay. Yes.
Boom.
Winner.
Winner. But y'all the shame.
Yeah, that got really hard. There was like ones that I was like, what?
Now you know. Next time you
Yeah.
go to a reading, study.
Study beforehand is the takeaway.
Need to know. Well, that concludes my questions for you. Any last questions before you can come mingle with the lovely Serena?
I have a question
Oh, she has a question for you.
for you.
For me.
Can you tell us a little bit about your book coming out next month?
Oh, you put me on the spot here. Let me whip out right now. So I have a book coming out in less than 2 weeks. So if I look deranged, that's why. Called Luck and Last Resorts. It is the second book in the Love, Bliss, and Fancy Ships series, which is a horrible series name, but I did not come up with that. Instagram does not hear it. It thinks it's called Loveless and Fancy Ships. I'm like, it's a romance. But so any writers out there, make sure that your title, Instagram understands it for captions. Pro tip. Anyway, but you don't have to read Luck and Last Resorts after Loveless and Fancy Ships. You can read it on its own. It's basically a second chance romance set aboard a super yacht between a chief stewardess who is a commitment phobe and very unlikable apparently, and a hot-headed Irish chef named Ollie Dunn. They've had this on and off relationship for 10 years and friends with benefits, or maybe. And he quit the boat in Loveless and Fancy Ships, and he has returned with an ultimatum that if he and Nina are not together for real by the end of charter season, so 4 months at sea, that he is going back home to Ireland forever. And Nina doesn't believe him until he brings up the secret that they've had for 10 years and they have sworn never to talk about. Then she's like, dang it, I gotta take this seriously. So it's basically sad girl falls in love again, meets Below Deck.
That's an incredible synopsis.
Tears and Below Deck. I think that's like my brand, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, that's Luck at Last Resorts, the very messy summary of that. Thank you all for coming out tonight. It is such a pleasure to chat with you and Serena, and I know she really appreciates all your support. This is an amazing accomplishment. Am I right? Like,
Thank you guys so much for coming.
thank you. If I can turn this off.
Yeah.